So finally, we are now learning about encryption and cryptography, okay? Now, the most important thing for encryption is the presence of a public and private key pair. And they're mathematically linked. We're going to be using right now an algorithm called RSA, which is very popular for encryption. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create or generate my own private public key pair. I'm going to copy my public key, and now I'll use that for encryption. So I just have to go here and use the public key. Even if I don't have an input, I still have some output for the empty input. But if I have some input, right, and this output that I get is encrypted, it's an encrypted output, which uses my public key as well to encrypt it. Okay. Now, the best thing about cryptography or encryption is that this can be actually used along with the public key to get back the input or the text that's encrypted. Now, let's look at encryption in more detail. Okay, so cryptography is encryption, and you transform the data using an algorithm. In our case, we used RSA and the secret key, which was the public key in our case. So only someone with the right key can use it. So you know that public and private keys are linked mathematically. So if you sign it with the public key and the other person has their private key, they can use it to decrypt the message and read the original message. Okay. So you get from plain text, which we started off with, this is the plain text, and you get something called as a ciphertext, and you get ciphertext in the output, which is basically using the input and the public key and changing some of the digits and interpolating them and creating the output. So it uses an algorithm and a key so that only someone with the right key can turn it back into plain text. So you ideally want to go back and get the plain text or decrypt it at the receiver's end. So what does it look like in practice? So you will have the server, and the server wants to send some information to the person who's purchasing something from the website, okay? And which is the payment amount is $20, status is complete, and next payment is due on this date. Now the server uses a key, and then you get back a scrambled encrypted output, which is then sent over the network. And now basically this means is nobody reading this information will have access to the information, even if there's a man-in-the-middle attack. And the person that's just made the purchase, or the client's PC, gets this scrambled or encrypted information, uses a key to decrypt it and get the original information, which is payment amount USD20, status complete, and next payment is due. Okay, you sent this information and you got back this information, but in the middle, it was always encrypted information. So this is encryption. There are two ways to do this, symmetric and asymmetric. We'll have videos specifically dedicated to symmetric and asymmetric. But from a 10,000 feet perspective, what you want to know is that in symmetric, the same key is used for encryption and decryption. Now, this is fast, efficient, and it's used for bulk data, whereas asymmetric, you use one key to encrypt and another key to decrypt. So it's slower, it's used for secure key exchange and digital signatures. So they're two different things. We'll have specific dedicated videos to these two topics, okay? So now that we have understood about encryption, let's try and understand about end-to-end encryption. I just want to take a quick break to tell you something important. Now, there are lots of courses for system design on the internet that teach you the basics of system design. And even when it comes to breaking down problems, they'll show you basic problems like WhatsApp, like Uber, like Netflix, breaking down these systems. But what about breaking down OpenAI, Claude, Hugging Face, Cursor, which are the kind of platforms that you'll be expected to build in 2025 and beyond? The market has moved on rapidly, but the system design content on the internet is stuck in 2015. This is why I've built the perfect 3 months advanced system design cohort, which is meant for people with some years of experience in the industry who are kind of comfortable with system design concepts, but now need to take it to the next level. Now, if you think you're the right fit, there's a form in the comments and in the description of this video. Fill it up and we'll book some time with you. Now let's get back to the video. And there's a lot of confusion about it on the internet. So what happens is you have a user A and you have user B, and they have a server in between them, which enables them to interact with each other. So user A sends an encrypted message, but the server re-encrypts and transfers the message to user B. And the user B is now able to decrypt and read the message and send an encrypted reply, and then the server re-encrypts and transfers the message to user A. So user A decrypts and reads the reply. But this actually is not end-to-end encryption, okay? This is something that you need to know, because the server in between them is responsible for re-encrypting the message and transferring and re-encrypting the reply as well. What end-to-end encryption actually looks like is that the user A has a key, and the key is only known to user A and B. So only user A and the user B will have the key. The server is just for forwarding, not for re-encryption. So the user A encrypts and sends the message. The server just forwards it. It cannot read the message. It does not re-encrypt it. It just forwards it. And the user B receives it, decrypts it, and then reads the message. And this is called as end-to-end encryption. No matter how many servers you have in between these two parties, the servers are not able to tamper with the information or change the information or even re-encrypt the information. Okay, so that's critical to understand what is end-to-end encryption and what is not end-to-end encryption. And in the next videos, we'll continue our journey with encryption, and we'll be looking at symmetric and asymmetric encryption.